I am thrilled with today's guest. He's a good friend. He's a guy who I have tremendous affection for. You know him simply as the Reverend Al Sharpton. He is, of course, the host of Politics Nation, weekends at 5 o'clock on my favorite network, MSNBC. He's also the founder and the president of the National Action Network since 1991. They've got over 100 chapters across the country. He's also hosted nationally syndicated 2 radio shows, Keeping It Real and The Hour of Power. He's a best-selling author. Welcome to my brother from another mother. Thank you, my man.
Thank you, and thank you for your brotherhood down through the years. And I tell people all the time, way back when people weren't inviting me on shows, you brought me on your cable show, so we go way back.
You were on my premiere, my old. That's right, my old CNBC show. One of my first shows. You were on, right in New Jersey, shooting it for CNBC. The Big Idea. I remember that. That's amazing. That was. Do you know how fucking long ago that was? So we're talking about 2005. So we're talking about 28 years ago. You know?
Yeah.
That's crazy. So first of all, let's talk about. I was so proud of you at the convention. I mean, up there. I mean, you just rocked the house. What did that feel like at the DNC in front of those people, a worldwide audience? You're used to a lot of big stages, but that's about as big as it gets.
No, it's as big as it gets. It felt good. One, because we were able to bring some issues to the big stage. And I wanted to do it where it was not just about me. I was on the big stage once before in 2004 when I ran in the primaries. But this, I wanted to say, what are we going to do about the country? What are we going to do about our staying together? Because that's why I wanted to end with that. If we stay together and not deal with our differences, we can have disagreements without being disagreeable. And then I wanted to show the results of some of the work I had done by bringing out the Central Park 5.
That was so emotional. That was just incredible. Yeah.
And I was with them when very few were. And I wanted to show that the results of this, when this man that Kamala Harris is running against called for them to be killed. And the thing, Donny, that gets
he's never rescinded that. He's never apologized. He's never walked that back.
He's never walked it back. Even wrote an op-ed in the Daily News after there was a settlement saying they shouldn't have settled with them. These kids lost a lot of. One kid that ended up working for me at National Action Network, Corey Wise, who was the first one to speak, he spent 13 years in jail for something he didn't do. He never even went into Central Park with the allegation of what happened to this young lady was brutal and vicious.
Of course.
No one's saying anything different. So I wanted them to understand some of the work, and I felt very good about the reception. And I felt, from 2004 when I went as a candidate to 20 years later to still be on the big stage was a good personal triumph.
And obviously with one of your heroes, Reverend Jesse Jackson, that must have been really, really special for you. That was another emotional moment.
Yeah, it was very special to me because when I was a teenager, when I was really 12 years old, I was already a boy preacher at a Pentecostal church. My mother was afraid because I kept wanting to go to these rallies and stuff that I would leave the church. And she brought me to Reverend William Jones, who headed Dr. King's organization in New York. King had just been killed. And he introduced me to Jesse, and Jesse kind of mentored me. And down through the years, kept, counseling me. And now that he's suffering with Parkinson's, can't walk, can't really speak clearly. He to ask me and his sons to wheel him out for this big hurrah in his hometown of Chicago, it meant the world to me. And I will never forget that moment.
Let's get into some. How are you feeling about the state of the race? I mean, it seems to be a dead heat. Obviously, the trending in the right direction for Kamala. Swing states, most of them are within the margin of error. What's your gut telling you right now?
My gut is telling me that she is ahead. And unless some unforeseen circumstance or the lack of on-the-ground movement, she can win. She must have an operation on the ground. She must not, her workers, not her, because I've talked to her and I don't think she's going to take it for granted. But her people on the ground can't take it for granted. I remember the night in 2016 that my girlfriend said, let's go to Javits Center. I was with you through Obama. I want you to be there when the first woman is elected. We will all celebrate. People were talking about who should be on the transition committee.
Yeah.
Premature. I don't want us to do that this time.
No, what I worry about the polls is they tend to underdeliver for Trump, because I think a lot of people are embarrassed to say they're voting for him and secretly vote for him. And, there's also some troubling numbers. Numbers are going in the right direction, but she still, this is what I want to get you to talk about. She's still underperforming versus what Biden did with people of color. She's going in the right direction, but there's still work to be done there. How do we get that done?
I think that she has she cannot take the people of color communities for granted. Some of her campaign people may be saying, well, they're going to vote for her anyhow. That's not true.
No.
At the numbers that she needs to deal with issues. And I'm not just talking about racial issues, but issues that affect people of color disproportionately, economic issues in terms of education, quality education, and crime. What people don't understand is that blacks are victimized by crime more than anybody.
Yeah.
And yes, we have issues with policing, but we also have issues with crime. We want better policing. We don't want no police. She should dig into her background as being a prosecutor, where she protected people against crime as well as protected them against police that may go awry. She's got to address that issue.
Yeah, people, the simplistic thinking is, she can't be too much of Mr. or Mrs. Prosecutor, because that's going to offend some parts of the base, because it's ridiculous. It's completely ridiculous.
It's insulting, because it is then to criminalize the base. The base are not criminal. The base is the opposite. And I think she has an opportunity to do so, running against a guy convicted of 34 felonies. I mean, you couldn't have more of a contrast than to have a prosecutor against a convicted felon.
Speaking of contrast, we watched disgustingly as Donald Trump sat on stage in front of a conference of black journalists and talked about how she wasn't really black. And what's interesting is, repulsive as that was, in Kamala's interview last week with Dana Bash, she was asked about it and she was like, same old stuff, next question. She's not running as a woman. She's not running as a woman of color. She's running as Kamala Harris. And that contrasts the way Hillary made a big deal about the glass ceiling. And I think strategically she's right on the money for owning that, but not making it her raison d'etre.
I think you're right. I think that the fact that she's a woman, the fact she's black is obvious. I mean, Trump coming with that, she never was black. I didn't know she was black. Everybody knew she was black. Not only was she the first black to be elected DA in San Francisco, and the first black attorney general of California, and the first black woman senator, and the first black vice president, by the way. The fact of the matter is, there was those of us that had said to Biden, you need to have a black on the ticket. And he did. He put her on. Trump was through all of that. He knew all of that. So Trump's just using anything, trying to poke a bear that is not there. I think the fact that she won't go for the bait and that she won't try to outdo whatever he's saying she won't do shows how she's really in charge of herself, and she's running a smart campaign. We do not need to be told she's black or woman. That's obvious. We need to be told what she can do as an American for American people.
Let's do a little role play. Let's pretend that you and I are doing debate prep for her. All right, that's coming up obviously Tuesday. This podcast is breaking tomorrow. They're sort of a few days out. What would you be telling her? What are the most important things?
She's got to deal with the issues and let him look as he is incompetent. The more she stays on what the economy has done under her and Biden, and how she intends to go further, that she's not anti-business, but she's pro-laborers and pro-regular people. But she needs to calm down. She's not a socialist. She's not a communist. She needs to deal with substantive issues like that. She needs to deal with the issues of crime and how she's equipped to deal with it. And she needs to deal with her expertise in foreign affairs. She needs to talk about what she did as vice president, and then let him keep talking idiocy. She should rope-a-dope him. Just let him punch himself out with all kind of stuff, and don't let him make her react. Don't fight his fight. Hit him where you got to, but don't fight him. So he wants to set the tone. He wants it to be all about him. she needs to never concede the debate to him.
I think he is, and this is what I can't wait to see them side by side at debate. For some reason, Hillary was an easy target because she was a Clinton and Bill Clinton, and Kamala as a woman and a woman of color, he does not know how to deal with her. And you could see, I don't have any data for this, that he can't believe that this is who he's running against. That is somehow you can just tell, you can smell it, you can feel it, and I think somehow along the rope-a-dope thing, let that seethe out, let that play out in the debates.
I could totally agree with you. I think with Hillary, he had bashed so much with allegations that were false about Bill Clinton did this, Hillary did this. He had in many ways criminalized them. So he could deal with her and then minimize her as a woman. He's got no kind of scandals he can throw at Kamala. He can't equalize his felonies with any allegations with her. And he's dealing with a black woman when he's always had a problem with women and blacks all of his life. And for her to be there equal to him with all that he has lived and believed, that is unsettling to him the minute they have to walk on that stage together. I'm really equal to this after all I did, the buildings I built. I became president. I said, I'm equal to this. In his mind, she has the advantage.
Yeah, I see that. I've been pleasantly surprised by Waltz. I was a big Josh Shapiro guy. I was disappointed when she made that decision. I thought it projected a young, vibrant ticket of tomorrow. She still has that, but I thought she would have had that in even more defined terms. I thought it got you Pennsylvania. I, of course, loved that he was a Jew. But it seems like she made the right choice. I mean, he has been a revelation. You can't not like that guy.
No, the coach I did not know him well until George. Well,
you and I were sitting, I'm just remembering now that you and I were kind of sitting on Nicole's show when they came out. We're like, not so bad,
Right. No, you and I were sitting exactly on Nicole's show next to each other when they announced it. And we had no way of knowing they were going to announce it during the show.
Yeah.
And I think that I dealt with him during the George Floyd situation, which happened in Minnesota. Found him to be a fair guy, but I never knew that he had this coach kind of guy that's, next to you online at the grocery store kind of personality. She ended up picking good. But I would say this, don't count Shapiro's future out now.
Oh, no. He's a superstar. He's a
young guy. And as a guy that's been an orator all my life, he's good.
Well, that's what it was. You and I were sitting when they came out in Pennsylvania and Shapiro was speaking, and we're going like, "Holy shit, this guy's really, really, really good." That was it.
No, he's got the whole package. I would not. He's young enough to be around a while. I would not count him out.
So I'm proud to be a friend. And one of the examples is I was having lunch a couple of weeks ago with Jonathan Greenblatt, the head of the Anti-Defamation League, and he was talking about that when the atrocities of October 7th happened, you were one of the first phone calls that he got and said, "What can I do?" And I just felt really good about that. That that you are the first to stand up for any group that is under siege, and you obviously and Jonathan was speaking about that in very emotional terms.
Well, I feel this way. Things in my younger years that I allowed to be misunderstood, and some things I did that I shouldn't have done or said. But I felt they were distorted. But as you get older, you say, yeah, but you gave reason to distort.
Yeah.
You shouldn't have done that. So I said, if I'm really going to be committed to trying to continue the work Dr. King and others did, you've got to go where it's not popular, and you got to go when there's no limelight. And what happened October 7th was atrocious. And I called Jonathan because Jonathan and I had worked together. We did the first hate crime summit in the White House. Biden and Kamala Harris was there. And I'm like, if something like this happens somewhere else, I'd expect Jonathan to call me. I'm going to call Jonathan and tell me what to do. And even as things started happening in the Gaza that I disagreed with, it does not justify being anti-Israel. You can disagree with Netanyahu. Yeah. I certainly do. Without being anti-Israel. There is a difference,
sure, of course,
between saying that I'm against Netanyahu and saying that I'm against Israel. And that's why
half the country is saying Israel, they're against Netanyahu. I mean, that's just
exactly.
So
yeah, but he's polling back. So that's why I've said to a lot of the young students that don't be infiltrated by people that's using you for another agenda. If your concern is what's going on in Gaza, but you should also be concerned about the victims that happened October 7th. Yes, there are a lot more in Gaza, but murder is murder, wrong is wrong, and hate is hate. And you can't fight it just in your own silo.
Why is it we're a few days from the tragedy of these 6 hostages being executed? And of course, a lot of the media reports it as found dead or died. No, they were executed. They were murdered. And it seems to me, I don't have any data on this, but just in looking at videos and social media and things, the last few days, the incidence of anti-Semitism, you see it. You see the marches in the street. You see from the river to the sea. I saw a video of a guy saying that the hostages deserved it. You know, heinous things. Why is it when Jews get killed that anti-Semitism rises? I mean, that we saw a 400% rise after October 7th. And you would think when an atrocity happens to a people that the hate towards those people rescinds. It seems to be the opposite with Jews.
I think that it is clear that there is a historic stream of anti-Semitism in this country, just like it has been racism. And any time that brings the abuse, less known the murder and wipeout of Jews, that strain jumps up and increases because there's an element that feels that they're getting what they deserved, which is absolutely heinous, and it needs to be confronted. But the argument I have is that it needs to be confronted by more than Jews. That's why, since I have a public platform, I'm being vocal about it. And I've seen people in Jewish leadership like Jonathan stand with me around George Floyd and around other cases that we feel is racist, that racism increases. You cannot challenge people to be there for you if you're not there for people, period. Racism, anti-Semitism, homophobia, it all comes from a place of hate. And if you're selective, you're just as bad as the people you're fighting.
I'm going to ask you a tough question, and I was very upset by this, speaking of Jonathan Greenblatt, that the number of people who have anti-Semitic leanings is 24% of the population, but it's higher with the population of people of color. And that's counterintuitive also, because you go, wait a second, these are people that have suffered, and I think it's 36%, 37%. What do you say to that? What do we do about that? And why is that?
I think it's 2 things that I would say. One is I think that some people in our community don't know the history. And I'm talking about the Black community now, don't know the history of Blacks and Jews, whether it was with Rabbi Abraham Heschel, with Dr. King, or even those that were more militant groups that worked on the West Coast with the Panthers and others that had support from people from Allied. So I think that history has not been told honestly. Second, because we all inhabited the same space in many cities, we were very much in the same neighborhoods, and Jews might have owned some of the property and all. You tend to fight people that you're closer to because the other people that hate both of you are not going to live in a neighborhood with you and don't want you in their neighborhood. So you fight your cousin more than you fight the guy that's 2 blocks away from you. And I think we've got to address that and deal with it. And I think that, yes, it's not popular in some elements of communities to embrace me like you have, or vice versa. That's where leadership comes up. It doesn't take courage to talk to what's easy. It takes courage to say, wait a minute, I may not like everything the guy did in his background, but we need to hear the guy. And the same on both sides. That's why I think when you and I go a lot on Morning Joe and I were political adversaries 20 years ago. You can't tell a country to come together unless you can demonstrate that. And that's what leadership should do.
Speaking of Morning Joe, and you and I are part of the posse, part of the family, and it really is a family. It's what I always say to people is everybody really likes each other. And obviously Joe and Mika really, they set the table. What is it about that show? And it is the show of record. I mean, you go on that show and it's just like, it's seen by every influential person, every person from culture, in every walk of culture and politics and communication and whatnot. What is it that works so special about that show?
I think because Joe and Mika and Willie and Alex, who helps the really
yeah.
not helps.
Let's give a big shout out to Alex Corson, the executive producer.
Big shout out, Alex is real
toughest job in America, but he does it amazingly.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely doesn't get any sleep because Joe will get a thought in the middle of the night and call.
Yeah.
But I think that they bring together people from different silos in the country. And it's like we're all meeting in the living room and everybody's saying, okay, what about this? It's almost a family meeting every morning. And it's not people that you just know what they're going to say. And people that have expertise in different areas, people that on their own right has a name. To put a guy like Donny and to put Washington Post columnist that has Pulitzer prizes.
That's certainly the opposite ends of the spectrum.
Right. And then to put an Al Sharpton, all that in the mix of the morning. Why would anybody turn the channel?
Yeah. So what's your day like today? We're doing this early in the morning because you're the hardest working guy. I don't want to say in show business, that's an expression. You're the hardest working guy in activism and communication. Take me through your day today.
I get up 4:30. I work out 5 to 5:30, 5:45. I have staff call. I get to the office around 8. I then have meetings because we have 100 chapters. I have meetings with them. I do my radio show 1 to 4. Now, this is if I'm not doing morning job. If I'm doing morning job, I got to get up early and go to the studio after I work out. And then this evening, I have ministers' meetings. I would speak at a dinner, usually some event in the evening, and try to get in by 10 to go to bed so I can get up, do morning job or work out.
You got a big event coming up coinciding with your 70th birthday. Tell me about it.
We're having the Triumph Awards. We do it annually at Lincoln Center. We're going to the big room this year. We're honoring Gladys Knight from Gladys Knight and the Pimps. We're honoring, of course, the legend himself, Wynton Marsalis, and Robert De Niro, the Oscar winner. They'll all be on. And it's going to be my 70th birthday, October 3rd. We're going to celebrate it that night at Lincoln Center. And it's free. People just go on our website to reserve their ticket. We'll cut it off when we're at capacity.
You know, you're always introduced as the founder and president of National Action Network. I have a feeling a lot of viewers don't even know what exactly you guys do. Just spend a couple of minutes and tell me about NAN.
National Action Network, I started in 91, is to continue the civil rights tradition of Dr. King, nonviolent social protest, and trying to bring about racial reconciliation. I was honored. Mrs. King has spoke up with our convention several times, and I work hand in hand, as you know, with Martin Luther King III. But it is basically to try to be a place for civil rights and continuing racial reconciliation in the nonviolent tradition of Dr. King. So when a person like Trayvon Martin happens or George Floyd, they have nowhere to go. They call us and say, what do I do? No one plans to be a victim. In many of the cases, we paid for the funerals because we're tired of seeing people go online hustling off these people. We paid for George Floyd's funeral. We paid for many. I won't give the name. We take care of them. We help them get a lawyer. I do the eulogies. And we say, well, let us do the protest so those that want to be violent do not in any way reflect on you. These families don't want to burn down the city. They just want justice. And that's why we've organized the biggest marches and protests, because we keep it nonviolent, but we are firm and clear that we're not, just because we're nonviolent doesn't mean we're not passionate and determined.
The Rev, you can see him everywhere, particularly on my favorite place, MSNBC, Politics Nation, Saturdays and Sundays at 5. I know how busy you are. Thank you for taking the time, my friend.
That's my brother. Thank you, Donny.
Everybody, thanks for watching. If you like it, hit that subscribe button. And we love having you here watching On Brand. And just don't miss any future episodes. So don't forget to hit that subscribe button. We'll see you next time.